If we scrub to the end of the composition, we'll see that there is another line on the other side of the steps. The problem with the second line is that it starts off screen. This presents a problem, but it does have a couple easy answers. The first easy answer is that we don't really need to see our flag until it appears on screen. If we lock a flag to the pedestal, we don't really need to see it until that line comes on screen. However, if we needed to track something else to that with a larger offset, it might present a problem. There are several different ways to track something as it goes off screen. But the easiest, perhaps, is to use an offset for our search area and our feature area. We'll start with the very last frame of this clip so that we can see the lion in its resting place. We'll select the layer, and remember, we need to double-click this to bring up the layer window. We want to create a brand new tracker, not just a tracking point. So in order to do this, we'll go up to Track Motion. This will create a brand new tracking point inside of that new tracker. We'll go down to Options and rename this Lion Right. Next, we'll just move this tracking point down to this right-hand side Lion Nose. So I'll open up my feature area so I get a bigger area to grab and drag this down to this lion's nose. I'll open up my search area because I want to be able to get a nice, confident track. Next, I'll analyze this one backwards. Analyzing backwards will move the clip backwards, moving this tracker off screen with our lion. I'll use the second button for Analyze, Continuous Backwards. Before I do this, however, I want to set up an option so that I can stop this if the tracking confidence falls below a certain value. So, under Options, I'll go down to the bottom, which allows me to stop tracking if my confidence falls below a certain level. Currently, the default is set to 70%. If the confidence for a tracker falls below a certain percentage, After Effects allows for certain options to take place. By default, Stop Tracking is selected. However, I can continue tracking, ignoring the confidence falling below any specific layer. I can extrapolate the motion, which means After Effects will continue the motion in the direction that it was currently heading. Now, this may be okay if your move is linear, but a lot of times, especially on a handheld shot like that, there is no guarantee that the motion will continue to move the exact same way from frame to frame. And last is Adaptive Feature. An adaptive feature will allow me to move into a different mode if the confidence falls. We'll choose Stop Tracking because we want to modify our track so it will be as accurate as it can be rather than just allowing it to drop below a certain confidence level. I'll click OK, and then track continuously backwards. Now at any point, I can use a spacebar to stop the track. I've stopped it before the track dropped below 70%. I know that once the track falls off of the outside of the screen, the lion won't be there anymore, and the feature set and the search range will have a problem tracking that line. So instead, I want to choose a set of pixels that are on the same plane as that line, but aren't around the lion. In order to do that, I want to leave the attach point where it is and move only the search area and my feature set. To move these two search areas, what I'll do is hold down the Option key or the Alt key on the PC, then hover over any one of these corners or the small line that connects the vertices of my search areas. Here's where it's tricky, because it's very important to select something that's on the same plane and something that moves with the same amount of speed that my current attach point does. I don't want to pick something high in the screen or very low in the screen or something that is actually moving in screen, because I want to make sure that it moves similarly to the nose of the lion. So with this Option key still selected, I'll click and drag and move this to a different area. Over here on the left, there's a dark sign with a very high contrast on the edge of the sign. When I release it, I can see now that both my feature set and my search area have moved over to look at the corner of the small sign that is on the top of the steps. However, I can see over on my lion's nose, the attach point is still affixed on the statue. When I continue to analyze this clip backwards, now instead of using the statue to analyze, it's going to use this set of pixels to analyze. It's still going to push this small attach point off screen still attached to the line's nose. So I'll use continuous backwards again and use spacebar to stop it. This is plenty because I don't need to track the flag when I can't see it. It's somewhere off screen, and very obviously I'm not going to have any of that pedestal in screen. So I only need a few keyframes to track this. Scrubbing forward in the timeline, I can see the feature area and the search area jump at the point where I moved those to offset the track. We'll go back to the project pane and simply drag another yellow flag in. The reason I'm dragging a new flag in rather than duplicating a layer that was already in there is that I don't want any of the tracking position data that has been applied to both the yellow flag and the blue flag. Again, I'll need to set time remapping for this layer and stretch the layer out to match the length of the comp. Also, I'll use an effect and change the hue and saturation for this as well. The next thing I want to do is go back to my layer window, edit the target so that it is applied to the topmost yellow flag, and select OK. I'll apply it and apply both the X and Y dimensions. Next, I want to rename this so I can be sure that this is the red flag and not the yellow flag or the blue flag that I'm going to modify. I'll use F2 to deselect all of the layers, then select the topmost layer and use return and type red flag. Again, I'll need to scale this and modify the anchor point to make this attached to the bottom of the pedestal. Using Enter or double-clicking on the layer, I can see that the anchor point has been modified on my layer, but not here inside my layer window. I'm modifying this inside my comp window only, but modifying the anchor point inside my layer window for any one of these flags may offset the tracking position in a way that I don't want. So it's important to modify your anchor point numerically here inside our comp window rather than trying to change the anchor point inside your layer window.